before second quarter will end, we will show you the exact date of the release of the game, and it will be this year.
This was the message that sparked off all the recent speculation about when both the release of Escape from Tarkov and the next wipe will be. Of course, it's all related to Nikita's Q2 2025 announcement originally on Twitter from December last year, being followed up in April's Tarkov TV that you just saw. But now that the actual date is coming really close, what do we know so far? Based on what he said, we will know the exact release date this month, sometime in the next few weeks, because Q2 is ending at the end of June, and as of recording, it is the 5th of June today. But based on what he says, this is going to have implications for how the patch cycle is going to flow down and whether we're going to get a wipe other than on 1.0 itself. And for this, we need to look again at the roadmap. This was the roadmap that was released in April as well, alongside Tarkov TV. And as you can see, there are patches for each month, one for May, June, July, and August, and then finally the release as well with an undetermined date. We've already seen the one for May, and we're currently waiting for 16.7, which is the patch for June. Broadly speaking, this kind of frames the conversation about when the release is going to be. Assuming that the release doesn't come with the August patch, because it doesn't look like that on the roadmap, that means that the release is probably going to be sometime from September. But of course, based on what Nikita said, unless something bad happens, it's not going to release after December 2025, so it's going to be sometime in that couple of months in between. This uncertainty is why people have been speculating hard about a wipe date. We know that 1.0 is certainly coming with one, and Nikita himself also in that same Tarkov TV said that PvE players will need to wipe their account manually to get access to the 1.0 endgame content.
Like, if we want to experience the final missions, the endgame content, you will need to apply the wipe for your account, for your profile. Otherwise, you can continue playing with your progression, but you won't be able to start the final missions. It is being done for the sake of, I don't know, not spoiling the whole concept of the end game missions.
There are probably technical reasons for this, but I also think it's a good decision, although it might annoy PvE players, because we don't want people who've done every single quest and are at max level on PvE to spoil the end game of Escape from Tarkov on 1.0 within 2 days of it actually releasing. So if you like your account on PvE and you don't care about the endgame 1.0 content that's going to come with the release, then you can keep it and not wipe it. But as Nikita said, you're going to have to wipe your PvE account if you want to access that endgame content and have everything that the game offers in 1.0, which will require you to start again from scratch like everyone on PvP. So the question remains then, although we know that a wipe is coming with 1.0 itself, historically BSG have wiped the game 2 times a year, once roughly in the summer and once in the winter. This begs the question, will we see a summer wipe in 2025? The only way that I can see this happening is if we have a short wipe in August with this patch here, patch 16.9, or shortly after it, maybe in September, and then 1.0 is all the way in December. Otherwise, there just won't be enough time to have a wipe in there at all. 1.0 itself might come in September after the final August patch, in which case it's probably just going to be the wipe on its own, but it's hard to know until we get Nikita's announcement as to when the 1.0 release date will be, which then in turn will make it more or less likely to have a summer wipe along with a 1.0 wipe or just a 1.0 wipe on its own. It certainly wouldn't be out of the ordinary to see a wipe quite late, because historically BSG have preferred to do a June and December wipe, but in the last couple of years they have done an August and a December wipe instead, with one long wipe and one short wipe. So we could see something similar here, but with 1.0 really all bets are off, because this is a one-of-a-kind patch with the release of the game, and with that is going to be a whole new set of features and updates, including Tarkov's final map terminal. Nikita himself has said a few times on various Tarkov TVs through the years that this map is going to be much more like a single-player experience, and it seems like the team has been spending a lot of time making it more cinematic than the rest of the game, leaning more into an immersive storytelling style setting rather than the typical PvP raid-based shooter that we're used to. In the last Tarkov TV, he showcased some screenshots and referred to these as cutscenes as well.
Couple of pictures from the cutscenes of the latest mission.
It's hard to know right now whether Terminal is going to be kind of bolted on to the outside of the game that we know it already, or whether it's going to be more integrated into the progression that we see at the moment with a bit of an overhaul. Only time will tell, as we're going to have to wait for 1.0 to see which way it goes. Until then, we have 3 more patches within this particular cycle, 16.7, 0.8 and 0.9. 16.7, the next one, is going to have this big audio update that I think the community is half scared about and half excited, as it was showcased a little bit on Tarkov TV. I'm a bit worried about it, as audio has been one of Tarkov's biggest issues throughout all of development, but I guess we will see. Looking at the showcase, it seems a little bit like it's sort of ray tracing the audio in some particular way, but the issue with some of these systems is that increasing complexity doesn't necessarily always get you the right result, especially looking at the increasing complexity around some complicated geometry here and here. It's hard to know how that will actually sound when we're in a raid. Among the other regular fixes and optimizations that are listed on the roadmap, we will be seeing map-specific updates on Reserve, Shoreline, Ground Zero, and Interchange in that order, with an expansion on Interchange as well that we really haven't heard much about at all. I'm hoping that this ends up being a bit more of a rework rather than an expansion, so to speak, and there's lots of things that BSG could do with Interchange to make the map a little bit more dynamic than it already is, including various levers and opening up containers and stuff that the map already has, because these things are really cool. There's also 2 events coming before 1.0. The first seems like a small-scale cult-style event, as this is the only point on the whole roadmap with a cult symbol, and maybe it leads into this large-scale event later in August, which could well have something to do with 1.0 and build up directly into it. I'd hope that this would be the case. There will also be a decent number of quality of life changes based on Tarkov.community, which is a website that I've talked about previously that allows people to post up suggestions, and basically a group of emissaries are collecting feedback there and sending it to BSG, who actually are coming back and giving feedback back to the community on those suggestions too. We've already seen quite a few of these things come to the game already in what I think is one of the best community tools that we've had so far in the game's history, and in the next update we're going to specifically see the auto purchasing of missing currency. This is primarily annoying when you're trading with Peacekeeper and you run out of dollars. You have to go back to him and buy dollars, then go back to whatever you're doing. Well, that will be bypassed now. And another really useful feature that's been asked about for ages, which is coming and allows highlighting attachments in some format. I think it'll probably be in the regular drop down where you pick from traders or flea market or whatever. And that will allow you to only highlight items that you're able to buy from the traders when building a gun. This means that you'll be able to build the gun with only parts that you're able to buy without using the flea, which you currently can't do, and you have to do a lot of back and forth figuring out what you actually do have and don't have access to as you go through. This is much more important at the beginning of the wipe when you're at level 1, 2, and 3 traders, because there you're restricted on access on what you can buy, and typically the similar things that you can't get access to on the traders are really expensive on the flea and you want to avoid them. After this, as the roadmap states, it's going to depend on what comes up and gets voted on via the Tarkov.community website, so do go and have a look and vote on the things that you think are important for a chance to get them included in the 16.8 and 16.9 patches. So lastly, what could we see in 1.0 that we haven't really heard much about yet? There are actually many things that could come to the game. BSG likes surprising the player base. There could be all sorts of things for not having the hideout at the beginning and having to transit through a series of missions to get access to it in the first place, or lots of other mechanics that have been speculated over the years. But the one that I think is coming, that we've seen teased a few times, is the in-raid traders and more cinematics, kind of Lightkeeper style, because they've already got that in the game as a basis for working on the others. Nikita has shared quite a lot of stuff on his Twitter recently, with mocap suits, teases of what looks like Therapist in particular in some kind of cutscene, and what also looks like basically a pre-rendered cutscene of labs. Jumping back all the way even to 2024, we've seen pictures with wireframe models of Prapor as well, indicating that they do want to put most of the traders in raid in some format, or at least have cutscenes with them. The question from this then is, how will this affect the game? It's difficult to imagine BSG overhauling the entire trader system for 1.0, but I guess anything is actually possible. Maybe you'd have to go and find that trader first in raid before you can then use them out in the menu. I'm not really sure. Or maybe these are just going to be used in cutscenes when you're interacting with the traders specifically. Anything's possible. Fortunately, we've only got around 3 weeks at most to wait for the first step in the final path to release, which is BSG's announcement of the actual release date itself for 1.0, which will then help us guide whether we're going to get a summer wipe or not. So as usual, a big shout out to all my patrons, and as always, have fun in your raids.